Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Patek Philippe 5131G-010. In 18-karat white gold, you can see this Indian Ocean-centered Cloisonné enamel dial in white gold case with 240 micro rotor, and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this 5131G. Now, of course, the 5230 has succeeded the 5130, so the predecessor model continues only because it's a larger canvas for cloisonné enamel, 1 millimeter larger in diameter than the successor watch. You can see why this timepiece was retained to provide a gorgeous canvas for whatever geographic proximity you prefer. This one, exceptionally diverse and versatile, is valid for anyone who is Australian, anyone who's from Europe, Africa, anyone who's from Japan, South Korea, anyone who's from India, Pakistan, the Middle East, or Russia. This one pretty much hits every high note except perhaps for those who live in North and South America. That said, the beauty is universal and it translates regardless of where you live. More on the cloisonné in a moment. Let's talk about the fit and the feel of this larger discontinued world time watch. Now, it's 39.5 millimeters across the round of the case, not including the world time pusher adjuster at 10 o'clock, the crown, or the swollen crown guard structure at 3 o'clock. That gives the watch the impression of being far larger than 39.5 millimeters. Take note, it has an impressive wrist presence. The watch is not thick, though. At 10.8 millimeters thick, it does depend on its generously sloped domed bezel profile to allow it to easily slide underneath a dress cuff. From lug to lug, the watch is big for a Patek Philippe at 49.1 millimeters, meaning if you have a larger wrist, this is an excellent Patek Philippe option. It's equal to any large forearm, but in my estimation, because the lugs are generously tapered and downswept, it looks proportional and sits securely on a wrist as small as, I would say, perhaps 14 centimeters in circumference, maybe 13.5 if your wrist is more oval than round. It has heft to it because of the large splayed out case in full gold and the heavy structure of that domed bezel. There is a navy blue rectangular scale alligator leather, unbolstered. You can see it has a very short sheer flank with the monotone stitch, calfskin on the underside, pull tab spring bars so you can easily remove the strap for closer cleaning of the case or to change the look or swap your strap. There is a full white gold deployant clasp, beautifully finished, providing a little bit of heft to counterweight the watch on the wrist so it won't move around if you like to wear your watch loose, with a beautiful filigree style Calatrava cross on the top, emblematic of the brand, and handsomely made in its own right, providing security, looping with the other side so you don't drop the watch while donning or removing it bedside. The case is sensuous and fluid. It has a sort of quality almost like a dancing flame in the way it reflects light. The lack of any real hard angles or straight line, with the sole exception of the junction between caseback and midcase and bezel and midcase, the watch definitely has more of a feminine grace to it than a masculine hard edge, though being a Patek complication, make no mistake guys, this one's for you. It features a radial world time display, and let me also note that the bezel is engraved with Genève at 6 o'clock and Patek Philippe at 12, a wonderful way to fit the watch with the corporate marquee without marring the actual cloisonné center or the world time functions with branding, so the watch is signed on its bezel rather than on its dial. Radial world time, invented by watchmaker Louis Coutier in the 1930s and pioneered in production by Vacheron Constantin and Patek Philippe. By the 1950s, additional advances had been made with Patek that included a quick change system so you could move everything in sync when jumping time zones. So here's how it works. You have a 24-hour scale that gives you the hour at every adjacent city. You have 24 cities, each city representing a primary time zone. I can't help you if you're in one of those quirky places displaced by 15 or 30 minutes, so you'll have to estimate. For everyone else, what you do is you look at the hour next to your city. So I'm in New York, US East Coast, or I should say I'm in Philadelphia, New York time, and it's approaching, as you can see, 6 in the morning. So it's approaching 6 in the morning where I am, and I know this because I have the day-night semicircles, and then If I want to move, let's say I want to go visit our old friend David Taylor in England, longtime viewer of the channel. All right, now I'm in London, and you see how the watch did the math for me. Now it's approaching 11 in the morning, and the hour hand jumped just like that while the minute hand stayed stationary. So you read the hour next to your reference city, and then you read the minutes, and you have the time in all 24 principal time zones at once. That's great. Let's talk about the cloisonné enamel. Okay, so at center you can see the images of the land masses and the seas and the oceans, all at the same time executed with cordons of a very narrow gauge golden wire that's laid down by hand by the artisan in the shape of the landmass. And then the individual cordons are filled with several vitreous enamel paints and fired repeatedly. The challenge is not to actually damage it while building up the colors, the textures, the tones, and the balance. Of course, the wires themselves can move and they can melt. They can even fracture, so the rejection rate for this kind of work is very high. So too is the amount of time and energy invested. So production of these has always been slow. In fact, to order a 5131 is an application process. Just as if you were ordering a grand complication, there is a system of application and approval before you get the privilege to pay your money. Fortunately, in our world of pre-owned, this one's available for delivery immediately. You can see the crown guard structure, and you can actually see the tapered, rounded profile of the horns of the guard, an unusual feature on watches with crown guards, but elegant and appropriate here. Caliber 240 HU for heure universelle, universal time, the world time variant of the caliber 240 micro-rotor automatic. The advantage of the micro-rotor is that it lets you have a watch that's manual wind thin, but as convenient as an auto. You also get the full view of the case back that you'd get on a manual because the rotor is in the same plane as the bridges rather than covering everything from center, both with rotor and winding bridge. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. The architecture came about in 1977, and pretty much continuously since then, the 240 micro-rotor has been the premium automatic, always elevated over the 310s, the 335s, the 315s, and the 324s. So this is the upscale auto that you'll also see on grand complications, or at least the micro-rotor base is what you'll see there. Now you'll also note that it features a Gyromax assembly, a free-sprung balance, to take and hold a precise regulation and better withstand bumps, disruptions, vibrations, and shocks on the wrist. So it's a little bit tougher and a little bit more precise in how it can be regulated. Now that's the Gyromax system, invented by Patek Philippe in the early 1950s. What you can't see perfectly here is the Spiromax innovation, a product of the Patek Philippe Advanced Research Series from the 2000s. It's a silicone hairspring that features the ability to resist magnetism robustly, giving the watch a little bit of modern materials technology. So too under the winding mass, where there are ceramic rotor bearings that are unlubricated, operating at high efficiency. You'll note the Patek Philippe seal, and you can instantly date this watch approximately, because you'll note here you have Moscow, 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. It's GMT +4. Subsequent to October of 2014, Moscow permanently became GMT +3. So we know the watch was made before October of 2014. Turn it over. Now we can see the Patek Philippe seal. That was implemented in approximately July of 2009. So you can gauge with excellent precision when the watch was made simply by looking at the front and the back of the watch. Excellent standards of finish. You can see linear Côte de Genève, richly textured. This is not the typical machine stamping that you see on cheaper watches. This is done the old-fashioned way, with a hand-guided mechanism. And you also note the tight and even perlage across the base plate underneath the 22-karat gold winding mass, as well as beneath the balance. And you'll note all of the screw heads as I move it through the light black polished. Also, look at the edge of all the bridges lighting up as I turn the watch here. You can see the anglage, which is rounded, not sheer, executed by hand to a mirror standard. The level of energy that goes into the movement should not be underestimated. The dial is not the only work of art on this watch. But, again, though an application piece when new, this one's available immediately pre-owned. Whether you live on any of these landmasses or simply admire their beauty, you can see and own this Patek Philippe 5131G on our website.